Hey guys, this is going to be a review of Shadowhunters Season 1, Episode 6 of Men and Angels. So I was pretty excited going into this episode because we knew that they were going back to Magnus's, and Magnus being in the story more excites me because he's not just one of my favorite Mortal Instruments characters, but one of my favorite fictional characters ever. So anytime he shows up again, I'm really excited about it. I'm gonna wait to talk about that until the end though, because I feel like I'll go on a rant if I talk about it now. I'm gonna start off with Jace and Simon in this episode because they really start going at each other's throats in this episode. It felt a bit more intense than the books, although maybe it's just been so long since I read the earlier books that I don't know, I keep thinking that a lot with the TV show. Obviously things are different in the TV show than they were in the books, but sometimes there are some things where I'm like, okay, is this really that different, or has it just been so long since I read the early books, like the first 3 books or so, especially the first book. I'm remembering things wrong, and if I would think differently if I read it, and that's one of those things where I was watching it and Jace and Simon are intensely going at it, and I know that they disliked each other at the beginning of the books as well and made comments to each other and everything, but it did feel almost more violent in the TV show because there's the one Simon shoving Jace up against the wall, which I don't think happened in the books unless I'm forgetting it. None of that is to say that it was a bad decision or something. I think it makes sense with Simon becoming a vampire especially, and him getting aggressive and things like that, which also one thing that made me really happy was Jace being what even happened to you when you were with the vampires to Simon, because even though Jace doesn't full on make a prediction that Simon's turning into a vampire, he was pretty much implying that that may be the case, and I'm just really happy someone finally brought it up because it's kind of frustrating to me to see Simon going through all these changes and Clary especially not picking up on it, even though when he managed to see the runes earlier, Alec commented that that was weird, and you could tell that he was thinking about it, but he didn't say anything else, and it was just Clary seems completely oblivious, and she's Simon's best friend, which I guess kind of also goes back to what Jace and Simon were talking about in this episode, but it's just really frustrating me that no one's hey, he was kidnapped by vampires, and now he's doing all this supernatural sort of thing. Maybe we should look more into that. So I'm glad that we got that little bit with Jace kind of bringing it up at least. We also got one in particular really heavy Clace scene. It was very much romantic sort of thing between Jace and Clary, which I think is the most significant Clace scene that we've had in the show so far. So like I said, I'm not a huge Clace shipper. I ship them in the sense that I don't want them with anyone else, and I do like them together. I do enjoy them together, but if I'm not incredibly invested, but it's still nice to see and watch that play out. I'm still not as enthusiastic about them in the show as I am other, not just them as a couple, but the characters too. But I also think that that is at least partially based on my feelings for the characters already from the books, because I do like Jace and Clary as characters and as a couple and everything, but if it's a choice between them and the other characters, they're always kind of secondary to me, which is strange because Clary's the main character. But yeah, so I'm just I enjoy that, but it's not really what I'm focusing on. And I really enjoyed some of the stuff with Magnus and Clary in this episode because I really like their friendship in the books. And I like that we kind of got some beginnings of that in this episode. I think well, no, maybe Magnus and Clary were alone together before, but I'm pretty sure they've always been with other people so far. But I liked just the two of them having a conversation, and Magnus making the comment about kind of Clary in the past, that hints that he like saw her grow, pretty much, kind of establishing the fact that even though she can't remember, he has known her for a really long time, since she was a kid. And I really liked that. He called her Biscuit in this episode, and Harry, who plays Magnus, tweeted about it too, which I thought was awesome. And that was just a really nice kind of throwback to the book, I think. Like such a small detail. No one who hasn't read the book will probably like, you know, like probably won't care or anything like that, but it was a cute little like reference to the book, I think, and I appreciated that moment because I like the friendships between pretty much all of the characters, but I do think that I have like a soft spot for Clary and Magnus's friendship because I don't know why exactly. Something about it I really enjoy. So I enjoyed getting some like moments together in this episode. I would say that the majority of the time I can't pinpoint my least favorite thing about an episode. Either like I just kind of feel like the entire episode was off, and this is for shows in general, not just like Shadowhunters. Like sometimes I'll kind of like not be as enthusiastic about like an entire episode, but typically I don't pinpoint something that was definitely my least favorite thing in the episode. But in this case, I definitely think I had that, and it would have been the flashbacks. I've seen some other people talk about really liking the flashbacks because they like that it establishes a backstory for Valentine and kind of gives a frame of reference for how he reached the point that he is in present day. But I don't know, there was just something about the flashbacks that I didn't like. Actually, I think there were several things I didn't like about the flashbacks. For one thing, it kind of bothered me that none of the actors looked like younger versions of the older actors to me. I don't know if anyone disagrees about that, but for me personally, it was really unbelievable that they were the like younger versions of their characters because they didn't look the part to me. I don't think any of them did. And in addition to that, I know that the acting in the show as a whole isn't amazing all of the time, but maybe I'm the only one who thought that the acting in the flashbacks was worse. And I don't know why that is, but I just as a whole, they seemed really cheesy to me. I like that we got them and we got some like backstory, and there is like the change in the books of Valentine like deliberately setting Luke up to be killed by the werewolves by like throwing him in the building, which isn't exactly how that plays out in the books, but he does make the comment in the show about you should have killed yourself, which I think was almost focused on more in the books. I feel like the scene in the books where they're talking about, I can't even remember exactly how it comes up. I'm pretty sure Luke tells the story because he would be the one who knows the story about like Valentine giving him the weapon for him to kill himself when he became a werewolf. And I almost wish that that had been shown in a flashback, because I know we instead got him throwing Luke into the werewolves, which is basically like killing Luke, but there's something just so chilling almost about looking at the guy who's supposed to be like your best friend and who's your parabatai, and then like handing him over the weapon and telling him to kill himself. That I almost feel is more powerful than throwing him into a building full of werewolves. So I really would have liked to see that, but I did like that we at least got the comment from Valentine that Luke should have killed himself, because it really does say a lot about Valentine, I think. I also, unless I'm remembering this wrong, in the books, Valentine doesn't suspect anything between Luke and Jocelyn. I don't think. That's not how that plays out, and I'm not sure how I feel about like that change. I can't put my finger on why that is. I can't put my finger on why I would prefer Valentine to not think that something was happening between Luke and Jocelyn, but I think it has to do with the fact that in the books Jocelyn seems so like oblivious to Luke having feelings for her, and if she knows that Valentine suggested they were having an affair, then that kind of falls apart. I think it's not as believable that she would be oblivious to any feelings Luke has, but maybe, again, that's just me who kind of feels that way. I don't know. But there were just several things about the flashbacks that I didn't like. They weren't terrible necessarily. I do like that they were there. I just kind of wish that they had been handled differently. And we get our first look at Max and Robert. So we have all of the Lightwoods in the show now, and I was really excited for Max to show up. Robert comes across as nicer in the TV show than he does in the book, I think. Like, he's not an excellent parent in the TV show. That is definitely not what I'm saying. But he comes, like, in the books, when I read the books, I like picture him as an immediately standoffish sort of person. It's always the impression I've had of him, of someone who, like, doesn't warm up to people, like almost kind of like someone who you feel could become hostile really easily. And maybe that's just because I'm reading about like his relationship with his family, which is terrible, but I don't know. But in the TV show, despite him being obviously not the greatest parent, I don't think, I still feel like you see someone who could be like almost like charming or like good with people, generally speaking, which just isn't quite the impression I got of him in the books. But it is interesting so far, because in the books I definitely like their mom more than their dad. That being said, like, that's completely relative. I like her more in comparison to Robert, not necessarily on her own, but in comparison between the two. In the book, I think that she's the better parent, like by far, if we're comparing the two of them. And in the TV show, it kind of seems like the opposite so far. It's the same thing of neither one of them being great parents, but he has definitely not come across as bad as she has so far, I don't think. But we'll see. I also think there's the hint where like Izzy's trying to question what's going on between the two of them, and something seems to be up, and I don't know if that's going to be like an affair comes out, because obviously in the books he had an affair, which wouldn't be playing out exactly how it played out in the books. I feel like that could be where they're going with that. I don't know like what kind of role that would play in the story. And oh my god, okay, so this is the big thing, and the thing that I really don't know what I want to say about it even. We have the introduction of the arranged marriage storyline, which there were rumors before the show even started that there's going to be an arranged marriage storyline around Alec, and people freaked out about it. And personally, I wasn't sure if like that was going to happen or not. But early on in the episode, when they're talking about like boosting the family name or whatever, I had a feeling that that was where it was going. And I don't know if I like it or not. I think that this could be done. I think the reason I don't know if I like it or not is because I feel like it depends so much on how they handle it. Like, I feel this could be handled terribly or it could be handled really well, and I don't know what they're going to do with it and how I'm going to feel about it as it's playing out. I don't really think that it will like force Alec to kind of like confront some things and whatnot, because his only other option is to get married. And I really liked that when Izzy told Alec that he was going to be forced into arranged marriage, his response was to finally like break the rules. I mean, not finally, because he already was, but like of his own. Like he's not just breaking them because someone else, particularly Jace, wants him to anymore, but because like he's so fed up with it and everything. I like that. So I like that that is probably going to prompt him to kind of come out of his shell more. And I like that the arranged marriage storyline has that potential. I feel like he'll come out earlier on in the storyline in the show than he did in the books, just because I don't see them drawing that out for a really long time, probably for a little while though. And obviously it's going to affect Magnus and Alec's relationship and things like that, and we haven't even met the girl that Alec is supposed to be set up with. I don't know if that's going to happen soon or not. I'm hoping. I think it would be nice if she wasn't like an immediately, I don't want her to be someone that you immediately hate, because that just seems too easy. Like, it's so easy to write a storyline where Alec has to get married and doesn't want to get married, so just make the girl like a terrible person. I would much rather like her being likable, but Alec just doesn't have feelings for her. I think that way of going with it would make me feel a lot better. I also imagine that she's not thrilled about the arranged marriage, so I think it would be kind of awesome if they were both angry about it and they could like bond over being angry about it and they become friends even though they don't like each other romantically. I think that would be really awesome if it went that way. And I still think you can have like so much drama with them being forced to marry when they don't want to get married without making her into a villain. And I feel like making her into a villain would just be like too easy and too like not exciting enough for me, I don't think, but we'll see. We'll see what they do. But speaking of Magnus and Alec, they had such a cute scene at the end of the episode. We also had the bit with like Magnus getting weak and Alec giving him his strength, and that was like a line straight from the book. But in the book it kind of happens further along in their relationship than what's in the show, and I don't know, to me that kind of like changed what was happening. Like, it makes it feel different when they know each other less in the show, and it was said, but it was still really cute, and I still really appreciated them using the line from the books, and their scene like together after everything happened at the end was really, really adorable and so perfect. Like, I love how I'm kind of iffy on how they're developing Clay so far overall, like as a whole, but Sissy and Malik, I think they're developing perfectly, and I thought that the way that scene played out and just the way like it was kind of striking though how Magnus kind of really almost exposed himself. Obviously nothing he said was like hugely like personal really, but considering everything that happened between them in the books and how they break up partially because Magnus like won't open up to Alec and everything, so him saying all of that when they're not even like they've met like 2-3 times was kind of striking to me and feels a bit different from the books, but it was also really nice. And like Alec not knowing what to do with that information, it was really cute. And obviously it was upsetting that Alec got the phone call in the middle and like ruined everything, but I really like that scene. I really like that kind of like really kind of, I don't even know what word I want to use to describe it, but kind of almost innocent, hesitant, because Alec has no idea what to do or how he should react, and like you know that he's so not used to people showing interest in him, and so he just has no idea how to react to Magnus showing interest in him, and he has no idea what to like do about it, and it's so cute. And that's some of the things that I love about their relationship in the books, and I feel like it's being translated perfectly into the show, and I'm just really excited about that. I don't know if they could have done that particular scene in a different way that would have made me any happier, so I'm really excited about that. And I think that's everything I have in my notes. Hopefully I'm not forgetting anything huge. I really am kind of nervous about the arranged marriage storyline because, like I said, I feel like that's one of those things that could be great or terrible completely depending on what they do with it, and so I'm a bit nervous to see what they do with it. Hopefully it's a good storyline though. I do think that it could, like, I'm not worried about Alec marrying her. I feel pretty confident that there's not going to actually be a marriage. It's funny because, like, aside from Shadowhunters, like, Rain is the only other show I watch, and Rain has had some, like, forced marriage in the past, and so I almost, like, expect that from Rain, so if something like this started happening in Rain, I would get a little worried, but Thinking about Shadowhunters, I just don't imagine Alec actually being forced to marry her, so I'm not worried about that outcome, but I am worried about not enjoying how the story plays out. We'll see. I am excited though. I think I'm excited more than anything to see how it plays out and just have my fingers crossed that it's good. So I will see you guys later.